More questions? Sure.
I think we are very lucky because we are born as a human being, which has the chance to be enlightened and get find Buddha nature. It means other than human being, they have no chance. I mean,
what beings have no chance?
Yeah, other sentient beings or other insentient beings. For example, bacteria or animal. And I thought it's just also brain working right now. But human beings are appearing on Earth. There are other beings on Earth in this planet. And I think for a long time, become enlightened or find the true Buddha nature didn't matter for those beings. But now it's matter. And is it because we are human beings?
Almost. It's not just because we are human beings, but our human potential is far greater than these other beings. We can do an awful lot of good and we can do an awful lot of harm with our potential. Currently, there is no greater damage and danger on this earth than human beings. Clear, evident, doubtless. We have done so much damage to this earth and other sentient beings that if we don't listen to this teaching that we can actually get enlightenment, we can clearly go closer to extermination than ever. It doesn't take a prophet to say that in the near future many human beings will die. Look at this. We are running out of water. We are running out of clean air. We are running out of normal, clear climate for producing food. There's a clear projection that by 2050 we would need another Earth to supply us with what we take now. Okay? And these are not religious people. These are pretty clear scientific assessments, and science is very conservative. It doesn't count with sudden leaps. It counts with predictable trends which they can model and prove and logically assess. It doesn't count with a very, very, very big leap either up or down. So this is very serious. So human beings need some advanced credit that, okay, you can attain awakening. That can already change direction. But in fact, human beings are capable of both. Because if you can use a scalpel as a surgeon to actually perform important surgery and heal human bodies, with the same scalpel used as a knife, you can kill human beings exactly in the same way. Except that you strike different, to a different spot, with different strength, with different intention. So using this very powerful human mind, we can truly attain awakening, but we can do the exact opposite and do so much damage that we ultimately make this earth uninhabitable or very, very difficult place to live. And I also have to say that if you look at the trends realistically, there will be no end to this world. But it can become infinitely worse. It's very important. No one's going to turn the switch. No one. But we can live under much, much worse conditions than ever before, than we could count with. Okay? And that's why many human beings can die if we don't do something. Okay? So, why did the Buddha say that? Or why did the Mahayana patriarchs say that? Because we, human beings, with this powerful mind, we live in an impermanent body. But we can wake up to this impermanence. We can wake up to cause and effect. And we can wake up to the nature of conditioned existence. We can truly see no I. We can truly transcend life and death. And because of that, the teachers said that only human beings can attain enlightenment among the incarnated beings on earth. It's true. But the potential, like I said before, works the other way around. Okay? So we shouldn't be so fascinated with ourselves. But we also shouldn't feel so guilty about what we are. And really use what we've got to attain awakening and help each other, simply because there is no other way to fix the problem. Now, in what kind of clothing and in what kind of tradition and in what kind of language do you do this, that doesn't matter. You can call yourself a Buddhist, a Christian, a Muslim, a Hindu, a Taoist, Confucianist, a Sikh, whoever you want, in any religious, fashion. It doesn't matter. Just wake up, please. Because if we don't do that, then the same mind which can attain awakening, the same mind produces so much ignorance and, as a result, anger and desire, that these polarities, these opposites, will rip us apart. Okay? So it's really important that people in key decision-making position, whether it's political, financial, legal, or otherwise, they would stop making opposites. They would stop thinking in terms of dualities. And they would really see things and human beings as they are. Because if we don't see ourselves as we truly are, free from any ideas and any wrong views, we can do an awful lot of harm. Okay? But we can also get enlightenment. Both. Okay? So that's why it was said that your attention would turn to the right way. Like the child who is playing with the scissors, is ready to cut his own finger, this little kid, Then the mother soon just gives a piece of paper. Okay, my dear, cut this piece of paper. Okay, you see how nice this little shape is? Follow this line and it becomes a nice little bird. And then the kid cuts at the bird out of this paper instead of his own finger with the same pair of scissors. That's human being. Okay? More questions?
As a Mahayana Buddhist, maybe you're seeing many Theravadan Buddhists, and after enlightenment, maybe my opinion is limited. But from a limited perspective of mine, I see many Theravadan Buddhist monks spending their time on graveyard and meditating 24 hours, never sleep, just sitting. And do you think they are still functioning after their enlightenment?
How would I know? I don't check them. Okay. They are my monk brothers. They follow their own way. If they meet hindrances, they sure will see them. I don't have to have any opinion. Help them.
Help them?
That's all. Help them. Offer them a good meal. Lunch only, okay? And then they're happy, and then you make merit. Good? Okay. More questions? Don't check anything. You check yourself, you're dead. You check others, they kill you. Okay. Any kind of question. Otherwise we finish and we start eating kimbap and pear and drink hyunmi nokcha. Up to you. Okay? But if you still want to use the rest of our 30 minutes, then we can exchange some more of the Dharma. So don't be shy, please. And you don't have to be intelligent. So, yes, Bosan.
How can we enjoy many beautiful things? The music, artists, beautiful scenery without any attachment.
Share it with other people. If you really want to enjoy a beautiful scenery, invite your friend, invite your family, invite your Sangha. Then together you enjoy it, and that's the greatest enjoyment. Same applies with food. Same applies with music. Same applies to everything. So don't keep it for yourself. In the old Vedic scriptures, the Hindus' holy scriptures, it was a commandment not to eat alone. If you're a true Hindu follower and you want to respect the gods, and you want to make correct human relationship, you don't eat alone, you share it with others. And also there's a rule, which some Hindus still keep, that you don't cook for yourself. You only cook when there's other people present and you can share it. Okay? That's very simple. And you'll see there's some real magic to it, because when people have one mind in these situations, it's a very, very, very strong bondage in a very positive way. When I moved back to Europe in 2000 following the instructions of my teacher, what I missed, among other things, the most, was the Achim Kongyang in the temple together with the other monks and nuns. And usually it wasn't so pleasant. It was really fast, you know. I remember we started always at 6, and in 1 year it went back to 5:50, in another 6 months to 5:40, you know, and then in 2 years it went to 5:35 because it was earlier. It was the Korean pali, 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 okay? And the whole thing lasted 15 to 17 minutes. And when the Juji Sunim put down his spoon, and the Sondok Sunim put down his spoon, then immediately the Ipsung Sunim had to sit, pam, pam, time for tea. So we started to have very little to eat because everybody wanted to get through, and still, the silently eating together, sharing the same food. I started from the end of the line, you know, and in 6 years, you know, as the beginners came and you move a little bit up and up and up and you have different jobs, and then in the last year you sit next to Sondoksen and you see how little he eats, you know. And then it really kind of dawns on you that, oh my God, this is really not about the quantity of food. This is not meaning to make you full. It means that you share food with other people. It's a basic human situation. It's one of the things that we have been doing for the longest time. Together, sitting around the fire, hundreds if not thousands of generations, and at the same time we share the food, whatever it is, whether it was the deer that we shot, or the corn that we harvested, or the kimbap that's coming out, you know, tonight. Doesn't matter, but we have been sharing food with each other for thousands of lifetimes. And precisely because of that, it's a very powerful expression of belonging together. So one thing that I made sure that when the Sangha started to grow from 2000, we have enough together action. It's not enough just to be together in the Dharma room. We shared meals inside and outside the Zen center. We went to places together, up to the mountain, or in the Buddha side of Budapest. We went to movies together. Yes, we did. And we watched wonderful movies, and we laughed together, or we kind of held very tight, you know, the chair together, and all these things. And they brought us together more than anything. And now in Wonkwangsa we work together. Okay? And we practice together, and we do retreats together. And this kind of together action is the hardest training, you know. Sharing is really the hardest thing, because yes, you can do it for 5 minutes. You can do it when you think about it. But what is it when you don't think and suddenly your ego just, boom, reforms and reconstitutes itself? Then you are locked in. And one thing which I truly valued, among many other things, in the group culture of Korea, that people are trained to share all the time. It's actually pretty amazing. In the various groups there are the structures, the Shiljang, the Bujang, and everybody, you know. And they share. And there's a head, and there's a neck, and there's a shoulder, there's arms, there's legs, there's torso, there's structure. And all of this, all the members of the structure share the load and share the tasks and share the benefits. You may not even think about it because you have been living in it, and it's pretty competitive, both inside and both outside the group. So you may have various feelings about it. But the fact that you are taught to think of the group first and you last, that's a main merit. It's very important. And if there's anything which will keep this culture really on the right track, in a very changing environment, where the ideas change, where the thinking changes, where feelings change, many things can change, but if the fundamentals of this society don't change, then you can survive everything. But if the family is divided, if the group is broken, if people are isolated and alone, then this society will be manipulated exactly in the same way as the West, and will face the same crises, the same pitfalls, and the same kind of disasters as the West. Very, very important. Please, Yorobun, remember that. You have a treasure, keep it. Okay? That's why. That's why. And Zen Master Sung San, when they asked him what is the hardest practice, he just smiled, and then people said, "Sir, is it the 90-day Kyoche? Is it the hardest practice? Full first day to last?" He said, "No, 90-day Kyoche, very wonderful. Practicing together, very wonderful, very easy." Then he said, 100-day solo retreat, then more difficult. Now, 100-day solo retreat, very pleasant. You do your schedule, nobody bothers you. Just do it, no problem. And then they say, "So, 20 years not leaving the temple?" I said, "No, 20 years in temple like nirvana. No problem. Your situation is very clear." Then they say, "Sir, then what is the hardest practice?" Then he says, "Together action," which means cooperation, keeping the group together, keeping the family together, not breaking it up, even under the greatest distress, even in the greatest crisis. That's hard practice. Keeping this one mind, keeping this one family, keeping this unbroken group. That's difficult. Okay? Too tight? No good. Too loose? Also no good. So then the teaching of the middle way really comes into focus, because if you attain the middle way, then society remains in balance, then the groups will harmonize and cooperate with each other. But if extreme views take hold and start to control, then the middle way disappears, then the middle class disappears, and society becomes polarized, and there's chaos. You could see it. In European history, it comes out glaring. Okay? Think about the Roman Empire and the two Roman half empires, then the chaos that came right after that, called the Dark Ages, then the Renaissance, then the Habsburgs, then the national states, then the two world wars, and then the globalization. In very big steps, I outlined 2,500 years of European history. So we have experience of swinging back and forth between one and many, many and one. But we have never really been clear about our true nature and our true self, except when really specially gifted people in the West, they gave us something in terms of art or science which got us close enough. I mean, when you listen to Johann Sebastian Bach, that music brings you pretty close. Okay? When you read Einstein and you really immerse yourself in relativity, that relativity of time and space gets you closer to the relativity of the mind. Okay? So we were pretty close. But how much lacking we were and we still are is shown clearly by this huge import of Asian philosophy and Asian ways and Asian practice, largely centered around Buddhism, in the last 50 years. America, Europe, anywhere where kind of European origin culture rules. We need that. And we learn that. And we practice that so that we could again become one family. It's a long process. Okay. More questions? Any kind. Yes. Don't be shy. It's right on your lips.
So when I practice, sometimes I feel practice easily. I want to practice easily. Sometimes it's boring. I mean, example, when I bow, it's some kind of boring. So I mix the chant. When I'm bowing, I chant together. It's kind of fun because it's the rhythm in there. Is it okay? Or when I
You are smiling, so it's okay.
Yeah.
It brings you joy and happiness, so it's okay. No problem. You feel it inside. If the practice works, do it. If the practice doesn't work, change it. But give yourself some time. If it doesn't work and you are kind of in a limbo, you have some doubt whether it's your problem or the practice's problem, give yourself some time. But Yombul and Bekpalbe together, if it works for you, then do it that way. Result is what really matters.
There's any limit when I do that, and I always choose the easy way.
Is it really the easy way? I don't think so. It's one way of many. And for you it works. I have to tell you, for me it would be really difficult to do what you do. I don't do anything, just I watch my breath and I watch the way I bow. I don't do any Yombul during. I tried many times, various mantras inside, and it doesn't work for me. So I don't do it. I think what you do is really difficult from my perspective. From your perspective, it's easy. So if it's easy, then do it a lot. Okay? Then it works. And again, see, look at the results. Sometimes practice is sweet because you found something. But what's the actual result in everyday life? What do you become? What kind of person leaves the temple? Not just what kind of person is in the temple, because that's very easy to play for yourself and for others too. But when you leave the temple, what happens then? So then the real result of your practice comes out. Okay? So if it works, day and night, inside temple, outside temple, walking, standing, sitting, lying down also works, do it. And if it doesn't work, you should really see, are you using the wrong kind of practice or you have some hindrance? And for that, you really have to have some keen eyes. Is it your hindrance or is it really dysfunctional for you? And if you try a long time, and long time can be 6 months to 1 year, and that's for everybody, all of you, and it's still no improvement whatsoever, then you may change your practice, but then consult a teacher. You know? And then the teacher really sees, is it your problem or you are doing the wrong practice? Okay? So, continue without thinking. Bowing, chanting, bowing, chanting. Okay? More questions?
Transfer from mind to mind depend on the mind. And even in Alana Vijana theories, depths of our mind exist, the Alana Vijana. And the others insisted that there is on obstacles or not some subtle kind of beings in the mind, even in the depth of the mind. But in Buddhist theory, transfer from mind to mind, the emptiness or an Atman, then we are easily understand there's something to transmit mind to mind, and even it is Bija or Alyana Vijnana. It's very easy to understand, but without that subtle things or without any beings, transition from mind to mind, the emptiness, how to transit to the others?
This transmission has no name, no form, no mind. We say mind to mind so that you would have an understanding. But originally, this transmission has no alaya vijnana, it has no conceptual content, it has only this true nature. It has only this moment. So these two minds become one in this moment. That's it. There is nothing to transmit, like there is nothing to attain. But for that, we really have to become one. So When the two minds become one in don't know, then they wake up. Okay? Then they really perceive. Yeah. I mean, the teacher has already been there. But when the student matches that, then they really perceive each other as one. I can't explain that better. Because it's the same problem. You cannot explain enlightenment and you cannot explain transmission either. There's nothing to transmit. There's only just this oneness when these two minds become one. Okay? And the alaya is totally switched off. Take that away. Really. It's maybe in some Buddhist scripture, but the alaya vijnana, with all the past, present, and future, with all your memories, with all your lifetimes, etc., it doesn't matter. Transmission doesn't depend on that. So, clear it out. Totally clear it out. And when you have zero concept of transmission and you really practice, and then you and your teacher's mind become one, and without words you perceive and understand each other, that's it. Then you will be very surprised. Okay? More questions?
According to the Buddha's teaching, do not any action which is harmful to sentient beings. But there are many mosquitoes in this room, so we cannot sublime the Buddha soul with insects as mosquitoes. To kill or not to kill them is my problem.
Killing, not killing is your choice, but don't think about it. You think about it, you have a problem whether you killed or not. Okay? Strange? No reasoning. You take your direction inside and don't really think about it. Simply watch cause and effect. That's all. Maybe more mosquitoes come. Or maybe if you don't kill, you get malaria. Who knows? So it's your choice, but don't think about it. Don't make I out of it. Then it's okay. But then cause and effect are very clear. And don't extrapolate this, like killing human beings right or wrong. You would never get the same answer, do it, just don't think about it. No way. Because first perceive cause and effect, really. And then make your choice. Because if you're a soldier, you have very limited choice. You still have choice to wound, to disable, or to kill. That's a soldier's choice. But sometimes you don't. So then, when you feel that you have no choice, then what do you do? Because you in fact always have. Okay? So, in this world there are two really, really hardly reversible things. One is giving life and the other is taking life. In our normal human existence we cannot reverse these things without causing suffering. So bringing body and mind together, that's giving life, that's birth, bringing children into this world. That's not reversible. And then killing somebody means forcibly separating body and mind, terminating a life. That's also not reversible by our power. So be careful. Why and what and who and when? Do you spare or do you not spare? It's really important. You think you will never get into that situation? So be careful, because you believe you would never get to that situation when you have to decide over life and death. Yeah, with mosquitoes, you go home and you have that problem. And you think you would never get to the situation when you have to decide over human beings' lives and deaths. That's not true. Overnight, any moment, it can happen. Then what do you do? Who do you spare? Who do you let die? This is an important question. You cannot decide in advance because you don't know what kind of situation it will be. That's why clear mind, a centered, clear, wise, and compassionate mind is really important. Because then you are prepared. Prepared for your own death or prepared for somebody else's. Okay? Thank you for the good question, Gosanin. So don't worry about mosquitoes. So, next.
They say we all have different kind of karma, and some karma is easy to find out, like habits, and some we don't know what kind of karma we have. How do we find out our karma?
Pay attention. That's number one. When you pay attention, you find out your karma. And there is no special practice for it. There's the usual practice of bowing, chanting, sitting in our style, in our way. And perceive what occurs in your mind in this moment. And especially when you are in a retreat environment, you don't look, you don't talk, you don't act outside the form. So you don't follow this karma. That's why we have the form. That's why we have the discipline. That's why we have the precepts. Because we don't follow this karma. So in a retreat environment, your clear mirror consciousness plus the situation, relationship and function, they show exactly what kind of karma you do not do. Because it appears in your mind, but you let go of it like a cloud. In real life, what you think, what you feel, what you say, what you do, that's your karma. Karma is action. And the result of the actions, whether in body, speech or mind. And then the repetition of these actions and the results, compounded. Also the identification with this compounded cause and effect. And that's called I. And when you stop that, when you stop this identification, when you stop the regeneration of cause and effect, then you become free from karma. It is possible. Okay? So simply pay attention and practice. I don't have to tell you, teachers, gurus, whoever, don't have to tell you what your karma is. You will see it for yourself. And you will see also the way to transcend it. Okay? Very good questions. Continue. We have a few more questions time. So, this is the finish, like in marathon. You have the last 1 kilometer, and everybody very quickly running. If you remember, there was an Olympics, not this one, maybe the previous one, when a Korean person won the male marathon. It may have been 8 years ago. So, who is the winner in the marathon? Yeah.
What is the meaning of the characteristic in the Diamond Sutra? When you see the characteristic as a non-characteristic, you can see the Tathagata.
Yeah. So that means that in the Diamond Sutra, what do they talk about? What kind of characteristics? Tell me.
Ego, personality?
No. The 32 distinguishing characteristics of the Buddha, right? The 32 marks or characteristics of the Tathagata. What are they? You don't know?
Yeah.
Good for you, I also don't know. Because the sutra says, the long version actually lists them, the 32 marks, the 32 distinguishing marks. You have to understand, the Diamond Sutra was formulated well into the Mahayana period. I don't know when, I'm not a scholar. But it's clear that the sutra deals with the problems that occurred during the Mahayana period. You know? Why do they emphasize in the Diamond Sutra that you may liberate countless beings? In fact, you should see as no one has been liberated. And there is no one who liberated them. You know? It's a preventive measure so that bodhisattvas would become these big egos. Okay, that I attained enlightenment. I liberated countless beings. That's a contradiction in terms because your I cannot do that. Your clear, true self, your don't know, that can do that. Similarly, with the 32 distinguishing marks, what your head should look like, what your fingers and arms and torso and legs and skin and radiance and all these things that should be as per the book like the Tathagata, people really started to attach to that. And that's why the teaching said that in fact the Tathagata is not characterized by the 32 distinguishing marks. So what is it characterized by? Read again. That the Tathagata doesn't think that he or she is the Tathagata. Has no thinking about him or herself. Has no definition of him or herself. That's why he is called the Tathagata. It's exactly don't know. Because don't know equals what the Diamond Sutra talks about always, implicitly or explicitly, bringing the original teaching of the Buddha back to focus, no I. No I. And this no I equals don't know. And that's why, like Zen Master Un Mun, when they really asked him about the Buddha, it must have been on a huge Buddha's birthday ceremony somewhere in his temple in China, during the Tang Dynasty, when everybody was so and absolutely filthy rich out of donations, that everybody was this really happy monk and nun, and of course practicing and going into society, and everybody had this proliferating thinking. This huge conceptual network in their minds, what is Buddha, what they should look like. They were talking about it, theorizing about it. And then Un Mun says, if I met the Buddha when he was born, I would have killed him, fed his flesh to the hungry dogs, and now there would be peace. And Un Mun is one of the greatest Zen masters we have ever known. This guy is not an arrogant, wanderer somewhere on the roadside who slanders Buddhism. This is Zen master speech. So the Diamond Sutra, in a short way, in a kind of longer way, says what Un Mun says in a very short and succinct and very brash way. It's a really important teaching. So don't make anything. Don't make the 32 marks. Don't make any preconditions. Don't make I. Because your I will never, ever be the Tathagata. That's the basic message there. All the passages, when Subhuti says, yes, my Lord. Yes, world honored one. He can only say yes, When the Buddha says, Subhuti, what do you know about the 32 characteristics of that? Then he lists them. And then with this questioning, which is very similar to Socrates and the students, and Plato and the students, It's a dialogue teaching. We call this person who helps the Buddha sometimes Subhuti, sometimes Shariputra, sometimes Ananda, whoever was near him and had this kind of dramatis personae, okay? The person who makes it into a dialogue. Dramatis personae, okay? That's your partner, your kind of conversing partner, which helps you bringing it into a drama, into life, into fulfillment. That's why the Buddha doesn't use monologue. He uses dialogue. That's why we use dialogue, so that it would have meaning for you. Okay? So, Diamond Sutra, perceive the true meaning. Only can do it when you practice. Because then you attain this no I. Okay? Last question. Who is going through the banner first?
Are you asked question?
I was almost positive. Gyosunin, please.
Sometimes we faced some embarrassment because the other religions mostly respected their founder, the religious father. But in Buddhism, sometimes they negate or reject the Buddhahood. So we are immersed. Why?
Professor,
religion.
watch what you say. We don't reject Buddhahood, but we reject personal attachment and personification. That's what Unmun Zen Master was clearly referring to. Okay? Because no name, no form, no life, no death, you cannot identify that with a person. You can respect Shakyamuni because in our historical era he brought it to us with his complete attainment and the start of the patriarchal lineage. But his person is secondary. His mind is primary. So we respect the Buddha mind, which is potentially present in all of us. How much we bring it to its fulfillment, that's up to us. So we respect the Buddha's mind, not just his person. So when you bow to the Buddha, you don't bow to a human being, you bow to the awakened one. And this awakened one doesn't depend on the 32 marks on his body, on his history, on his language, on his culture. He doesn't depend on that. And he is really perceptive and clear enough to talk about Buddhas before him. So he doesn't attribute his awakening to himself only, but sets up a continuation before him and sets up a continuation after him with Mahakashyapa and the patriarchal lineage. So he talks about Kashyapa Buddha before him. He talks about Dipamkara Buddha before him. He talks about many other Buddhas in various kalpas before him. So that you would see it coming from infinitely from the past and going infinitely into the future. So that you don't worry about time. You don't worry about appearance and disappearance, and therefore you would be not attached to his person. So that's our lifesaver, actually. It saves our way. It saves our integrity. That we don't respect a person. We respect the mind of that person, and through that mind the person receives respects too. Okay? It's very important. It's not just some blind belief, some blind dogma, some blind faith. You are told to respect somebody because he was born at this and this time and he did this and this. No. He attained awakening. We respect the awakened one. The awakened ones. Whenever, wherever, however they were born. Okay? So, you're welcome. I very much appreciate today's very vivid and lively presence from all of you. And I hope to continue next week with the fourth, the one before last talk of this autumn series. Okay? I hope you will stay well and healthy until then. Do some practice, dependent on your spare time. I hope to see all of you next week, same time, same place. Thank you very much.